open in a small gap down situation here. Right quick, just to kind of bring us into this gap down situation based on kind of yesterday and whatnot. As you know, we were looking, our main hypothesis for the day was to be getting short in this area for us to come down and tag the 6180s, 90 kind of area there. That did not work out at all yesterday. In fact, we finally got a late day spike because I believe there was plenty of longer term traders trapped short in this, hitting these lows. As who's the new guy in the room? I believe it was, his name's like Daniel MPX or something like that. I forget his name. He kept highlighting how there was a lot of volume hitting the lows, that they weren't afraid to be doing so. Then we got that squeeze. But then there was nothing in the tank there. There was no real catalyst. There was no real impetus or continuation at all. And what we ended up getting overnight was a perfect situation of our hypo 1 from yesterday. We did trade down into this area. And part of that hypo, as we come into today, is that I want to be a buyer. Once I thought the market needed to accomplish this, to trade down to 6190. It's done so. Now we can be a buyer, and that's what I'm looking to do. Preferably, I may end up taking something other than this, but preferably a hold above 6150 and provide that opportunity. So we had buyers come in from VWAP, and we had sellers come in from yesterday's low. Just short-term players in control, being pretty precise with these short-term references. So hypo A for me is that we actually get something like this. Hypo B would be that this is a significant high, and we actually trade back down into here, or possibly even, 59.90. Let's just say this zone down here. And hypo C, the most boring of them all, would be really more rotational behavior within here. This main overnight area and zone that we've been looking at. Three price swings above and below the opening print so far within a fairly tight range. Thought there were a couple decent short plays on these little pullbacks here. Have not taken in anything myself yet. A little more selling as we kind of rotate up and test that VWAP area, which was prior support. Sellers looking pretty decent here. Now, if my hypo A and that this overnight low is good for a much higher time frame swing up to, 62.90s for starters, and much higher, 64.80. Those are the kind of targets I have if this overnight low is to really be an area, or excuse me, a medium-term low. One of the things that we may start to see, this market really should have been able to trade down to 61.11, that kind of area. So it was just the first little interesting bit there that we stopped at an incomplete low there at 15 cents. So we'll continue to monitor what happens in the 61.10 to these teens here. See if we start to get some kind of a decent order flow shift in this area or not. But I'm still in a position, just like I was kind of at the open, where I'm sitting on my hands. I'm waiting to see what develops that gives me, boom, that aha moment where now really what the market is up to. Right now, hypo 2 and hypo 3 could easily be playing out. This could be the, I know it's pre-market, but high of day essentially. And we could do nothing but trade lower from there. Or we could just be totally choppy in this overnight range and area we have painted here on the chart. I do not know yet. I do know that if you wanted to get short based on my hypo 2 or hypo 3, not that you're just copying my hypos, but if those were scenarios for you, I thought these were decent areas, especially this second one here, decent area to at least start to get involved with that, the short idea for the move down into 61. By the way, isn't it great that we have little 30, 40, 50 cent scalp opportunities in crude at the moment? All right, that's pretty strong buying starting to come in here. And I'm sorry to say something a little off topic here, but I really do think I give a lot to you guys, and I would like to ask for a little bit of help. If any of you know of any kind of software or something that can take these recordings that I do every day, and I can put it through some kind of software, and it will splice it up to where it only shows the clips of when there's audio coming through, when I'm actually saying something. I think those would be better recordings for people rather than having to sit through all the dead silent space. So I'm looking for some kind of solution there. If anybody has any ideas, reach out to me after the trading, the morning session or something, please. All right, I did buy a bit here at 16.17. First trade of the day. We'll look to take some off into 40 here. Took scales into this 40 area. Just a subtle teaching point there. I usually don't take a 25-cent first scale. It's usually less than half that. So adapting to the tempo, seeing what was unfolding right there, there's no sense in taking an 8-tick scale. Sit back, let it unfold, have an idea of where it is that you want to take some profits and do so there. But not just because you usually scale at 10 cents. These little bitty, all these little, once you get to an advanced level, you are able to execute a process flawlessly, which most people never get there. It's all about these tiny incremental edges that you can add to what you're doing. It becomes a game of inches, really. Nice little build here. It looks like we could get a little more. See this C, D, and E ledge up here on the profile. That is definitely an area to keep an eye on, to look out for right here that we're hitting into right now. Kind of this whole zone from value low to that ledge. And it's that's into the 50 area as well. So it's confluent with an even older reference, which this zone here is. So anything again hypo A, we get. That's what we're looking for. I did take a little more off, just a little bit more off into the low 50s here. For my mentees, that's just based on the ETH chart. Subpain 1. If short is your main idea, this could be we could have just had a great place to get back involved with the short. Nothing wrong with that. My hypo is not fully developed until we get a hold north of 50. Right now, just little wicks above it. That's not a hold above it. Another thing I'd like to say, just to kind of a teaching point here, is if I were to essentially get out of this trade around 50 cents, get entirely flat on my full position, that one trade, this one single trade would make up for my entire day yesterday of, what was it, 6 losses, just a horrendous strikeout day. That's how you structure risk reward in your favor and make stuff like that happen. It makes all the difference in the world. If you're trading at 1-to-1 all the time, man, that's a tough way to make a living. Gus, I like to, it's not that I trade the exact same size, but I adjust the size to keep my R value exactly where I want it to be for my current daily loss limits and all my risk parameters. It all starts with the risk that you're given. That's why, I've gotten a lot of emails lately, people asking about the tryout and what's the account size going to be. And my response is always, it doesn't matter if I give you $10 million or $20,000. It doesn't matter. If you have a $1,000 daily loss limit, you have a $1,000 daily loss limit. That's going to dictate your sizing and everything about what you're doing. Anyway, so Gus, I keep a consistent R value on any trade that I take. I do not risk a lot more or a lot less from trade to trade, which is very different than the SMB equities culture. Bella is a firm believer in sizing up in your best trades, getting bigger in your A+ trades. That's not something that you can come in. That's not something that I agree with. One second. Speaking of risk, that was our risk manager. Don't worry, he was not coming to pull me out of my positions. He has before, though. Get that knock on the door. Hey, you're at your limit. All right, I'm shutting it down. And just to wrap up that conversation, because I think it's a great question, Gus. I do not believe that, with my decade of experience, I do not believe that I am able to say, aha, this is an opportunity you recognize that's much different than the usual opportunities you recognize. Therefore, it warrants more risk. My system does not give me that. It's either worth my risk and my time and my energy, or it's not. And I differentiate between a real setup for me versus more kind of, that was a bit impulsive. You really didn't have a great reference to trade there, those type of things. And I'd have no idea whether the odds of any given trade are better or worse than 50-50. I just treat them all as 50-50 from a mindset perspective. In fact, my stats are 50-50. That's kind of the trader I am, 45-50. So it's a coin flip. I don't size it differently. I'm going to stay focused on the markets for now, Gus. I don't typically like to just have a Q&A session while I'm trading. We'll talk about it later. And yeah, typically there's several messages I have marked unread, like direct messages, guys, there's so many because we're just launching the futures publicly. If you message me sometime before the open up until 10:30, 11 a.m., I'm probably going to say, I'm busy. I will try and get back with you later. That's just my trading hours right now. And I do this webcast, but the purpose of the webcast is not to teach you guys anything directly. It's to show you that it can be done, and it's to give you whatever insight you can garner from just watching a professional trade. It's not a instructional video. And I'm not getting on to Gus. It's fine to ask questions. I'll get to them when I can. So definitely a battle up here around this 50-cent area. Sellers recently trying to take control most immediately, this little down movement here. We'll see if they can get anything going and break it lower, or if they continue to build and build and build up here. In fact, we start to see this kind of into an ascending wedge type of pattern. We'll definitely monitor for that, which obviously that's going to be a bullish pattern. So certainly not a perfect scenario here, messier than we would like, or it's just absolutely wrong to continue to expect upside continuation. If I think that if this was going to play out, perfectly, although this selling is not very strong, so I'm not, just flattening out of the position or concerned that much. It would have, if it was going to be perfect, if the tempo was going to be there and it was just going to trend nicely, I don't think we would have come back to 40, 41. I think we would have held a little better, closer to 50. So we'll see when the bulls take control. If they take, well, they're going to at some point, but the next up leg will be very telling to me whether the bulls still have strength or not. And here comes the bulls starting to take control. 2 minutes until the next TPO period. So C period will be very telling as we monitor for, in terms of the profile and the development there, how much of this excess high in B period will remain. Once we start printing C's, are we going to, start printing them up into here and remove that excess? That's going to be a clear indication that the auction process is continuing to build value higher versus excess remains, and we start trading and get unable to trade back above the A period high in C period. That would be a very bearish sign. So watching that developing profile, and I talk all about this type of stuff in the market profile course and a lot more. So SMBfutures.com, have a look at that. It's just a market profile is a wonderful, wonderful objective type of tool to use to see how things are developing. It simplifies all this little price data, and especially if you use candlesticks and whatnot, there's so much information to garner, whereas this really does a good job of simplifying the data that we can see, and therefore the what's the word? The information we can pull from that data. Buyers getting absorbed a little bit. Let's see if they can eat through this. The VPOC for the day is right here. In some cases, this would be an add for me here, but it's not going to be here. Those buyers got stuffed and now they're puking it out. All right, guys, I've got to step away from the video. My stop remains below the low of day. There's no way I'm trailing my stop up into this chop zone, this overnight range type of deal. If I get a strong indication that just this market is absolutely not going to be able to surmount 6150, I'll call it that. I'll flatten it out. This little failure and then retest and then selling from here, that was one indication that we're not going to be able to remain above 50, but I'm giving it a little more leeway because I got such a great trade location. I mean, beautiful, beautiful fills at the lows there. So I'm scaled out of almost 2/3 of the position into these two areas that I called out the scales. So we'll see. I will update you guys as usual. For those of you that don't know, post video, I'll always update you in the chat with how and what decisions I make going forward. Cheers. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you around. Many people want to be traders. They're passionate about markets, but they don't know how to accomplish the goal of being a successful trader. They don't know the path to achieve that goal. And it's easy to want to be a trader, but that doesn't mean it'll be easy to be one. And there's no easy path to any form of greatness, but there is a path. SMB Futures gives traders a way to move their trading forward, a way to rise above all those who try and fail. Whether you're just starting out or an established veteran, we have a place to plug you into our system and keep you moving forward down the right path. Maybe you need to connect with successful traders. Maybe you need training to develop mental toughness or find edge. Maybe you're ready to trade on our team, either remotely or on our New York desk, where you are backed by large amounts of capital, provided with world-class professional technology, where you work with a risk manager that knows you, within a culture of coaching and mentoring, at a firm that takes all the downside risk while encouraging you to become the best version of yourself. For those with the courage to make the journey, SMB Futures is here to move your trading forward.